Yes, We Can, a production by Sienna Kristen, in part for Hamline University, to help fulfill the capstone requirements for the Masters of Arts in Teaching. During the next 10 years, about 1.2 billion young 15 to 30-year-olds will be entering the job market, and with the means now at our disposal, about 300 million will get a job. What will we offer these young, about 1 billion of them? I think this is one of the greatest challenges if we want to achieve peaceful development and hope for these young. This is said by the former president of Finland from 1994 to 2000, and he was also Nobel Peace Prize laureate. What he is stating is that 1.2 billion in the next 10 years are going out into the workforce, but we only have jobs for 300 million of these individuals. What are we going to offer the rest? Will we offer almost 1 billion individuals if they can't find a job? Is our education system to lack for this? As a whole, is society to lack for this? And these are the steps we need to consider when we are moving education forward and looking at educational reform. In leading the way to educational reform in Finland in the early 1990s, Dr. Vilo Hirvi, then the Director General of the National Board of Education, said that an educated nation cannot be created by force. He acknowledged that teachers and students must be heard, and that the way forward called for active collaboration. Active collaboration from students, teachers, principals, parents, and outside community members. In Finland, teachers and students were insisting on more flexibility and freedom in deciding how to design instruction and what to study and when. We are creating a new culture of education, and there is no way back, Irvi said to his staff at the National Board of Education. Basic to this new culture has been the cultivation of trust between education authorities and schools. Such trust, as we have witnessed, makes reform that is not only sustainable, but also owned by the teachers who implement it. What he has stated here is that flexibility and freedom in deciding how to design their instruction, what to study and when. Finland has offered their students flexibility and freedom of choice. They've also offered trust to their teachers and trust to their students that helps build the trust between everyone and also creates a sustainable model for teaching and learning. This creation wasn't by force, but it was slow movement to create a model that worked for everyone involved. And that's a great point that he makes, is that great education cannot be created just by force. It's something that needs to be designed, implemented by students, teachers, and everyone to make a sustainable model. During this great time of change, everyone is looking for immediate results. And what Solberg reminds us is that patience is something that is called for. They call for patience in this great age of immediate results. Education requires a different mindset. Reforming schools is a complex and slow process. We can't expect immediate results. To rush this process is to ruin it. The story of Finland's educational transformation makes this clear. Steps must be grounded in research and implemented in collaboration by academics, policymakers, principals, and teachers. Everyone needs to be on the same page to create a successful educational system. For Solberg, what this meant is that education and reform didn't happen overnight. It started in the 1950s and 60s, and by started I mean these changes started to be implemented in the 1950s and 60s and still are being implemented today. Changes have been slow, they have not been immediate, and it required patience of Finland and the Finnish education system to see results. The size of Finland's population and relative homogeneity of its society obviously makes many aspects of setting education policies and implementing reforms easier than in larger, more diverse jurisdictions. Even though Finland is not very diverse, we still can take things and aspects of their education system and help improve education for all students. These factors alone don't explain all the progress and achievements in education. Just because a population is diverse doesn't mean that what they're doing can't be used in other places. And that's what we need to take away from the Finnish system. And they should not stop us from learning from one another as we strive to improve education for all students. If something's working in one school system, research, design, and implementation can help it work for another school system. In the Finnish system, cultural ideas and also looking at the values of the Finnish system is something that many students still value to this day. The ideas like small is beautiful, don't talk unless you have something to say, and less is more are a few ideas that are still in their culture today. Finland is, however, very unique among nations in terms of its values, cultural detriments, and social cohesion within their society. Fairness, honesty, and social justice are deeply rooted in the Finnish way of life, which many students in many other countries are not taught today. Fairness, honesty, and social justice are deeply rooted in the Finnish way of life. Meet a student, and they may have more respect than students of many other cultures and societies. People in Finland also have a strong sense of shared responsibility, not only for their own lives, but also for those of others. They build a sense of community. They foster the well-being of children. This starts well before they are born and continues until they reach adulthood. Daycare is a right for all children until they start school at age 7, and public health service is easily accessible to all during childhood. We don't have to worry about a child not going to a doctor or seeing someone about an ache, a cut, or a bruise. They're seeing someone because they have easy access to them and because it is a right for all students. Education in Finland is widely seen as a public good and is therefore protected as a basic human right to all in the Constitution. Education is free and accessible to everyone. The executive summary that Pasi Sahlberg created in his book is one that's great ideas. The first thing that he talks about is that Finland has an education system in which young people learn well, and performance differences among schools are small and all within reasonable cost and human effort, meaning that no matter what school they go to within the Finnish school system, the performance and how well that students learn, the difference is very small and minute from one student to the next. But what he also states is that this hasn't always been the case. Yes, there used to be great diversity and achievement gaps among students, but now, in this day and age, students are on the same levels. In Finland, teaching is a very prestigious profession and many students aspire to be teachers. This is something that in the U.S. education system we're not seeing. Teaching is losing its prestige, and many students are leaving the teaching profession or deciding not to enter the teaching profession for many various reasons. With many teachers being known as a prestigious profession and many students aspiring to be teachers, the Finns have probably the most competitive teacher education system in the world. Students are leaving the doctors and lawyers professions and seeing that teaching is more prestigious. This is something that many other models could learn from. As a consequence of this teacher education system and how competitive it truly is, teachers in Finland have a great deal of professional autonomy and access to purposeful professional development throughout their careers. They're always looking to move themselves forward in something that's meaningful and helps them dedicate their lives and careers to the teaching profession. Within teaching, they do not have high attrition rates as seen in many other countries. Those who are lucky enough to become teachers normally are teachers for life. Almost half of all 16-year-olds, when they leave comprehensive school, have been engaged in some sort of special education, personalized help, or individual guidance. They're seeking that one-on-one help that helps them find success and helps them find achievement in their schools. In Finland, teachers teach less and students spend less time studying both in and outside of school than their peers in many other countries. Even though they are finding less time in the school and less time being taught at or to, they are still finding the achievement well above and beyond many other countries. Another great aspect of the Finnish school system is that Finnish schools lack the standardized testing, test preparation, and private tutoring of the United States and much of the world. Finnish schools do not have standardized testing to the same levels and amounts of the United States or many other countries. As I've stated earlier, Finnish schools usually have one student test versus an entire class, and they find that even at random picking, those students out-achieve many of their other comrades from many other countries. All of the factors that are behind the Finnish success seem to be the opposite of what is taking place in the U.S. and much of the rest of the world, Sahlberg has stated, where competition, test-based accountability, standardization, and privatization seem to dominate. Everything that is happening in the Finnish school system is not really seen mirrored well in many other parts of the world, and this is something that the U.S. system could take note from. The global educational reform movement, also known as GERM, has been a movement that is being seen by many other countries. The GERM movement is looking at the education system moving towards a more prosperous and great education system for all students. The idea of the global educational reform movement, or simply GERM, evolves from the increased international exchange of policies and practices. It's not a formal global policy program, but rather an unofficial educational agenda that relies on a certain set of assumptions to improve education systems. GERM has emerged since the 1980s and is one concrete offspring of globalization in education. It has become accepted as a new educational orthodoxy within many recent education reforms throughout the world, including reforms in the U.S., many parts of Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom, some Scandinavian countries, and an increasing number of countries in the developing world. What GERM truly is that they're trying to look at global education development as something that the entire world could be able to move. So what Sahlberg has stated is that in the business of global education development, it is important to be a critical consumer of available change knowledge, meaning not just taking everything, but defining what you would like to actually use and making sure that you research upon it. Indeed, rather than shifting emphasis towards standardized knowledge of content and mastery of routine skills, some advanced education systems are focusing on flexibility, risk-taking, creativity, and problem-solving through modern methods of teaching, such as cooperative learning, and through the use of community networks and communication technologies in teaching. You may have seen these in some charter programs, project-based learning, or many different initiatives throughout the U.S. education system. And these are something that are slowly starting to make a change. GERM has gained global popularity among policymakers and change consultants because it emphasizes some fundamental new orientations to learning and educational administration. It suggests strong guidelines to improve quality, equity, and the effectiveness of education, such as putting priority on learning, seeking high achievement for all students, and making assessment an integral part of the teaching and learning process. What GERM also shows is that quality, equity, and effectiveness of education are all something that, yes, the Finnish school system has looked at, but something that they haven't is such as putting priority on seeking high achievement for all students and making assessment an integral part of the teaching and learning process. Now, the Finnish school system has moved for high achievement, and yes, they are seeing high achievement from all students, but they are not making an assessment an integral part of the teaching and learning process. They've moved away from assessments and are looking more at education and student-centered learning and student creating their own learning opportunities is what Finland has started to move towards. When it comes to the fourth way, also known as the Finnish Way, the fourth way is a way of inspiration and innovation, of responsibility and sustainability. The fourth way does not drive reform relentlessly through teachers. It doesn't push for standardized testing. They use them as a final delivery points for government policies or vacuum up their motivations into a vortex of change that is defined by short-term political agendas and the special interests with which they are aligned. They don't do that in Finland. Rather, it brings together government policy, professional involvement, and public engagement around an inspiring social and educational vision of equity, prosperity, and creativity in a world of greater inclusiveness, security, and humanity. With the fourth way, also known as the Finnish Way, they're looking at the student, the social and educational aspects, and trying to move toward a greater inclusiveness, security, and humanity for all students, while making sure that equity, prosperity, and creativity are a great part of the education system. When it comes to welfare, equality, and competitiveness, this is something that Finland has outranked many other countries in. The Finnish values have remained intact since the 1950s and 60s, and when I stated that Finnish students are looking to the words less is more, small is beautiful, do not speak unless you have something to say, these are all part of the Finnish value systems. And these values include law-abiding citizenry, trust and authority including schools, commitments to one's social group, awareness of one's social status and position, and a patriotic spirit. These are something said by Richard Lewis in Pasi Sahlberg's book that many students still feel to this day. And I can't say that this would be echoed in the U.S. educational system. Finland has also followed suit of many other Nordic countries in regards to their state's welfare. The welfare includes education becoming public for all of its citizens, particularly for those in the most need of support and help. And the income inequality is often claimed to affect people's lives in more ways than just how they can afford to live. And the income inequality is very minimal in Finland compared to many other countries. The income inequalities are very small, and they also help create better citizens for the Finnish system. So when we say welfare for all students and for all people of Finland, this is something that has given them a better education system. The equality in schools is showing more and more in Finland. It seems understandable that income inequality, child poverty, and lack of appropriate pupil welfare in schools play an important part in improving teaching and learning in national education systems. This has been well understood in Finland during the last half of a century. Complimentary school lunches, comprehensive welfare services, and early support to those in need have been made available for all children in all Finnish schools free of charge. So not only are they getting school lunches, are they getting welfare services at school, but they're also getting early support. So as well as getting daycare for any student or any child up until the age 7 when they actually go to school. Every child has, by law, a right to these welfare services in their school. They are granted these services right at school, and the parent doesn't even need to look any further. The Finnish experience shows that a consistent focus on equity and shared responsibility, not choice and competition, can lead to an education system in which all children learn better than they did before. Hoping that the problem of inadequate education will be fixed by paying teachers based on their students' test scores or converting public schools into private ones through charters or other means is not included in the repertoire of educational improvement in Finland. So the ways in which the U.S. education system is moving with paying teachers based on test scores or converting public schools into private ones through charters and other means is not a way of life in the Finnish schools. What Sahlberg has stated is that we should reconsider teacher policies by giving teachers government-paid master's degree level university education, providing better professional support in their work, and making teaching a respected profession. As long as the practice of teachers is not trusted and they are not respected as professionals, young talent is unlikely to seek teaching as their lifelong career anywhere. Or if they do, they will leave teaching early because of lack of a respectful professional working environment. The experience of Finland and other high-performing education speaks clearly to this. The future is Finnish. With the Finnish education system moving at such a great speed, and the fact that they are finding achievement, they are seeking systems that work for students, and they are moving towards collaborative, trustworthy, respectful, professional teachers, and where the community, schools, parents, and students are all involved in the education system, the future is Finnish. And John Dewey has made many statements that echo the Finnish school system. John Dewey dreamed of the teacher as a guide, helping children formulate questions and devise solutions. Dewey saw the pupil's own experience, not information imparted by the teacher, as the critical path to understanding. Dewey also contended that democracy must be the main value in each school, just as it is in any free society. The education system in Finland is shaped by these ideas of Dewey and flavored with the Finnish principles of practicality, creativity, and common sense. What the world can learn from educational change in Finland is that accomplishing the dream of a good and equitable education system for all children is possible, but it takes the right mix of ingenuity, time, patience, and determination. That's true for everyone in the education system. Education being equitable and great for all students, for all children, is possible, but with time, it's going to take ingenuity, patience, and determination of all involved individuals to help make education work, and that we can find education, achievement, and success all in the same place.